Earlier this year, a Korean movie did something nobody really expected. The Korean film industry has been in a slump. Theaters are quieter, ticket prices are up, and everybody's watching Netflix at home. And then this movie came out, 왕과 사는 남자, The King's Warden. Not only did it hit the magic number of over 10 million viewers, but it also became the second most watched Korean film of all time. So today I want to walk you through the entire list of the 10 most watched Korean movies in history. I'll also tell you how hard each of these films is for a Korean learner if you are trying to learn Korean from them. By the way, you're watching Talk to Me in Korean and I am Hyunho. Let's get started. Now, before we look at the top 10 movies, there is one Korean term that you need to know. 천만 영화. It literally means 10 million movies. You know, in Hollywood, when people talk about a hit, they usually talk about money, the revenue. You've heard of the $1 billion club, movies that grossed over $1 billion worldwide. In Korea, we measure them in people. Why 10 million then? Well, the population of South Korea is around 51 million, so if a movie sells 10 million tickets or more, that means roughly 1 in 5 people in the country went to a theater and watched that film. And that's massive. So far, only 34 films in history have crossed that line in Korean theaters. And out of those 34 movies, 25 are Korean films and the rest are foreign ones. And when 10 million people see the same movie, that film almost becomes shared cultural memory. It gets quoted in conversations, it gets parodied on variety shows, and the catchphrases from that movie enter everyday speech. So by watching these movies and understanding them, you can catch the references and laugh at the right moments. And this kind of cultural fluency is just as important and valuable as grammar knowledge. Now, if you're ready, let's start with the first movie. Number 10. 7번 방의 선물. Miracle in Cell Number 7. A man with an intellectual disability is wrongly convicted of a serious crime and sent to prison. His cellmates eventually realized that he's innocent and they secretly help smuggle his young daughter into the cell so he can see her. It stars Ryu Seung-ryong, and remember his name and face because he's going to show up again later on this list. And this movie became famous for two opposite reasons. On one hand, the relationship between the father and daughter is genuinely moving. And on the other hand, it's the film that critics often point to when they complain about the overly engineered, melodramatic, tear-jerking scenes, which we call the Shinpa style in Korean. Korean difficulty level, beginner. A lot of the dialogue is at a child's level, so it is very gentle and easy to follow. The trickier parts are prison slang between the inmates.
아빠 딸로 태어나서 고맙습니다.
Number 9. 도둑들, the Thieves. The easiest way to describe this movie? Well, it's the Korean Ocean's 11. A group of thieves with complicated history team up to steal a diamond from a casino in Macau. But what made this film especially famous was the cast. Almost every major Korean star at the time was in it. You'll recognize Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game. Chun Ji-hyun and Kim Soo-hyun are both very well known in Korea as well as internationally. The director Choi Dong-hoon is good at this kind of format. Fun setups, big casts, and fast pacing. He also made 타짜, 전우치, 암살, and these movies created a ton of internet memes. And this movie, 도둑들, Korean difficulty level, intermediate to advanced. The characters all have very distinct personalities and speech styles, so it's actually a great film for picking up nuance. But the dialogue is fast, there's slang, there's profanity, and there's criminal jargon.
내가 볼 땐 어마어마한 같아.
Number 8. 괴물, the host. Yes, this is a Bong Joon-ho film from before he made Parasite, Okja, and Snowpiercer. Over 13 million people watched it. A monster appears in the Han River in Seoul and snatches a young girl named Hyun-seo. Her family, who runs a small snack stand by the river, go to get her back. They have no money, no power, and the government is more of an obstacle than help. This is the oldest film on the list from 2006, so if you're a fan of Korean cinema, it'll be fun just to see how young the actors and actresses look in this film. And the Korean title, 괴물, literally just means a monster, but the English title is the host. Why? Because director Bong wanted to gesture at something deeper. A host as in a body that something parasitic lives inside. The word monster here doesn't just refer to the monster of the film. It's the system around it. Korean difficulty level, beginner to intermediate. Standard Seoul Korean conversation tone, not too hard to follow. But because it's a disaster film, you will hear a lot of less everyday vocabulary like emergency announcements and government terminology.
분무속이 한번 썩어 문드러지면 그 냄새가 심리밖까지 진동하는 거예요.
Number 7, 서울의 봄, December 12th, The Day. This one is a historical drama based on a real event, the military coup of December 12th, 1979, when a private group of officers inside the Korean army seized power after the military dictator Park Chung-hee was assassinated. And this brought the leader of the coup, Chun Doo-hwan, to power, and Korea was under his military dictatorship for 8 years. The Korean title 서울의 봄 means literally the spring of Seoul, and that's actually deeply ironic because the spring of Seoul refers to a brief, hopeful period between the fall of Park Chung-hee's regime and the brutal crackdown that followed. The film is about how that hope was crushed before it could bloom. The English title, December 12th, The Day, is more literally done because the metaphor was probably hard to translate. And there's something else worth noting. This film came out in 2023, and then in December of 2024, Korea actually experienced a martial law declaration, the first one in 45 years. I think the whole world saw that happen, right? After that night, this movie went viral again. Many younger viewers who had no memory of the 1979 coup and what happened after that became interested in watching it to understand what was happening in real time. Korean difficulty level, advanced. Lots of military terminology and very rigid hierarchical speech. Different ranks speak to each other with strict honorific differences.
실패하면 반역, 성공하면 혁명 아닙니까?
베테랑, veteran. This film stars Hwang Jung-min, who also played the dictator in 서울의 봄, but in this one, he plays a righteous cop. A detective squad goes up against the spoiled grandson of a Korean chaebol conglomerate who thinks that he's untouchable because of his family's money and political connections. And Veteran is a textbook movie for a genre where the bad guy is so bad that you are desperate for him to get caught, and then he finally gets caught. Korean difficulty level, beginner to intermediate. Lots of natural conversational Korean, a lot of swearing too.
어이가 없네.
Number 5, 국제시장, Ode to My Father. We're going to see the actor Hwang Jung-min again in this film. This is the Korean Forrest Gump, or at least it's clearly a Korean homage to it. The film follows one man's entire life through the most dramatic decades of modern Korean history, the Korean War evacuation from Hungnam, the dispatched workers sent to Germany, the Vietnam War deployment, and the televised reunion broadcasts for separated families in the 1980s.
Am I your sister?
정혜가 난네 죽었는 줄 알았는데 이가 신아야.
The Korean title 국제시장 literally means international market, and that's a real market in the Korean city of Busan. But more importantly, it's where refugees from the north gathered after the war. It is not just a market, it's a symbol of the post-war generation. So that is why the English title is Ode to My Father, because translating it as international market would lose the entire meaning. Korean difficulty level, intermediate. The film uses a lot of 경상도 dialect, so it's not ideal for studying standard Korean.
이만하면 내 잘 살았지.
Number 4, 신과함께-죄와 벌. Along with the gods, the two worlds. A firefighter dies saving a child. He arrives in the afterlife and is told that he has to stand trial in 7 hells, each one judging a different sin. 3 afterlife guardians act as his defense lawyers, and through their arguments, we slowly learn the truth about his life. And here's something culturally interesting. This film is based on a webtoon, a comic published online designed to be read by scrolling on your computer or on your phone, right? Webtoons started in Korea around the early 2000s and have become one of Korea's biggest cultural exports. And in the last several years, there's been a constant trend of adapting hit webtoons into films and dramas, including 미생, Itaewon Class, Sweet Home, A Killer Paradox, and many more. This film was viewed by more than 14 million people, and it actually got a sequel, along with The Gods, The Last 49 Days, which also crossed the 12 million viewer mark. Korean difficulty level, intermediate. Lots of formal courtroom-style Korean. Great if you want to learn polite, structured speech, but there's a lot of fantasy and Buddhist vocabulary you won't use in daily life.
현지역의 최종 판결을 시작한다.
Number 3. 극한직업, extreme job. A narcotics squad goes undercover to surveil a drug ring. To get close to their target, they buy a struggling fried chicken restaurant across the street. The problem is, their chicken accidentally becomes insanely popular. Now they have to actually run a restaurant and somehow still catch the criminals. This is the single funniest film on this list. It's pure comedy, full of slapstick energy and ridiculous one-liners. And surprise, Yoo Sung-yong is here again. He plays the squad leader, and his comedic timing is half the reason that this film works. Korean difficulty level, beginner to intermediate. Tons of natural conversational Korean from a really varied cast, and you will pick up a lot of humor patterns. Watch out for police slang and swearing though.
지금까지 이런 맛은 없었다. 이것은 갈비인가 통닭인가? 예, 수원 왕갈비 통닭입니다.
Number 2. 왕과 사는 남자, or 왕사남 for short. The King's Warden. This is the film I opened the video with, the one that broke through a difficult year for Korean cinema and became the second most watched Korean film in history. The movie is set during the reign of King Danjong, the 6th king of the Joseon dynasty, who was crowned at just 12 years old. His uncle, Suyang-daegun, seized power in a coup and exiled the young king to Yeongwol, a small town in the mountains. The film is set there. The young king is played by Park Ji-hoon. He got his start as a child actor, but most Koreans know him as a K-pop idol. He came out of Produce 101 Season 2 and debuted with 101. His performance as Danjong has been a huge part of why the film keeps drawing repeat viewers. This film also had a fun and good side effect because the real town of Yeongwol has seen a tourism surge from fans visiting the locations. Korean difficulty level, advanced. This is a period drama, so the speech, or a lot of it, is in 사극체, historical Korean. Beautiful to listen to, but not the easiest place to start as a learner.
저도 그 안에 있습니까?
And now at number 1, still the king of the box office, more than 10 years later, we have Myeongnyang, the Admiral, Roaring Currents. More than 17.6 million people saw this movie. This is a historical war film about Lee Sun-shin, the Korean naval commander who defended the country during the Japanese invasions of the late 1500s. And the movie specifically focuses on the Battle of Myeongnyang, or Myeongnyang-haejeon in Korean, which happened in 1597, a battle in which Lee Sun-shin commanded just 12 ships against a Japanese fleet of over 300 ships, and he won. And if you didn't know, Lee Sun-shin is not just one of many historical figures in Korea. He is the figure. Every Korean kid learns about him in school. His statue stands in the center of Gwanghwamun Square in Seoul. And the 3 battles that he's most famous for, Hansando, Myeongnyang, and Noryang, are required textbook material. Korean difficulty level, advanced. Historical military Korean, very formal and archaic.
아직 신에게는 12척의 배가 남아 있사옵니다.
And that was our list of top 10 Korean movies based on the number of viewers. Watching films is a great way to learn a language. You hear the language in context, attach it to the faces and feelings and situations, right? You stop memorizing rules and start absorbing how Koreans actually use the language. But movies are not made to teach you, they're made to tell a story. So you will get a lot of slang, profanity, fast speech, and dialect and historical language. You will also get a lot of scenes where you have no idea what's being said. But that's not necessarily only a bad thing. It's actually how real Korean sounds, right? But if you're a beginner learner and you want to try and learn Korean only by watching movies like Myeongnyang, it's going to be very, very tough. So what I recommend is to pair film watching with structured learning. A film gives you the feel and the structured lessons give you the foundation. Put those two together and you can learn much more effectively. And speaking of structured lessons, at Talk to Me Korean, we're currently running a campaign where you can access all of our courses for free. All of them from beginner to advanced. The link is in the description. Click it to get started and pair your next Korean film with a real curriculum. You will really feel the difference. And let me know in the comments, how many of these 10 movies had you already watched? Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. 감사합니다.